ओम दिक्कालाद्यनवच्छिन्नानंत जन्मात्र मूर्तये स्वानुभूत्येकमानाय नमः शांताय तेजसे. This is an invocation by Bhartruhari right in the beginning of Niti Shatakam. So he says this, that the Supreme, the Absolute, can be realized only by Swanubhuti. And that has been our tradition. So my pranam to all the rishis. Idam nama rishibhya purvajibhya purvebhya pathikrutbhya. The rishi tradition of Bharat has been an unbroken tradition. There has been no age, no time when the rishis did not live. So with this, this little book is prepared. It's not meant for scholars, because the scholars already know about the history and everything about the rishis. But it's meant for common people, all those who are aspiring to know who are the rishis, what are the Rishihood or Rishitva that one needs to manifest within. Swami Vivekananda, he said one very prominent statement of Swamiji which inspired me, that we have been speaking and singing the glories of the rishis, and merely singing the glories of the rishis is not doing good to the rishi tradition. So he says that we need to manifest the rishitva in us, and we can even think of being, achieving something what the ancient rishis even couldn't achieve, because every rishi is dedicated to a particular, aspiration or achievement that's specific to that rishi. So every rishi has some unique contribution, and since the human consciousness is an evolutionary consciousness, it's evolving consciousness. So the rishitva can, when it manifests, it can address to many other challenges and many other issues, and then something which has not been achieved in the ancient time can be achieved newly. So that's how the rishi tradition continues. So he says, like, India should produce rishis greater than Panini, Patanjali, Vasishta, Bharadvaja. Like if a father looks at his son growing and then becoming greater than him, he feels happy. All the rishis will feel happy that if we can achieve something and then manifest that rishitva. So before I go to my talk, my pranam to all of you, and there are some people who are involved in the preparation of this book, and the most important person is Smitaji, who was presenting me. So without her, this book is not possible, would not have been possible right from the beginning. So how it has taken the shape, so the entire credit goes to her. So I invoke all divine blessings for her and the whole family and the children. Thank you. And Kumar Harsh, who was a colleague of mine who created the book design. So he was supposed to be here. Maybe he will be arriving a little late. So in case he comes, so I'll introduce him to you. And of course, Ritvik ji and his family, the Subbu publication family. So they were very happy to take it off and then bring it out in the right time. There has been many challenges, and of course, I acknowledge the contribution of the artist who has illustrated the rishis to make it a little more visually rich. So, and there are many other people who have been, supporting this work. So, my gratitude, infinite gratitude to all of them. The Rishi tradition of Bharat, as I mentioned, there has been an unbroken tradition, but we need to understand who are rishis. The moment we say rishi, there's an image that rishi has to look like this, and then he has to be in a particular position, his dress has to be like this. So there's a particular image which comes, but That's not Rishitva. The Rishi can be in any form. He is beyond all ethicality, morality, mind, beyond all sensations, everything. He's beyond. He's the transcendental being, you can say. That's how when Rishitva manifests, so one is in that state. He's not bound by any limitation. So he's unlimited. His energy is unlimited. He can create rules and he can break all the rules and create new rules for himself and for the society. He's that daring personality. But there are three qualities which makes someone a rishi, which we must keep in mind. And the first quality of a rishi is drishti. Without drishti, one cannot be a rishi. So, rishistu kila darshanat. There has to be, the drishti has to be there. We all have drishti. We also say like pashyema saradah satam. When the rishi is invoking pashyema saradah satam, he is not invoking to have good physical eyes without any eye problem. You don't have to go to an ophthalmologist to check your eyes. It's not that kind of eye, a pashyema saradah satam. He is asking for that. He is asking for that inner vision. That inner vision, drishti, antardrishti. With that antardrishti, he can see the truth, he can perceive the truth directly, and then present the truth as he has seen. Yadrugeva dadrushe tadruguchyate. That's why Rishi, whatever he has seen, he presents that. Like Kabir says to his opponents who always challenged him, saying that, like you are saying these things about Brahman, God, so whatever this, like all the Mimamsakas, Vedantins, all Vyakaranas, Alankarikas, all of them, they will gather and then challenge Kabir. He was unpurred. He was illiterate. He didn't know what to answer. But his answer is this. He said, "Tu kehta kagaj ki lekhi, main kehta aankhan ki dekhi." Whatever you have studied, you present that. But I present what I have seen. Sri Aurobindo has a beautiful aphorism where he says that they came and convinced me with their fine logic that God doesn't exist. And I believed to their fine logic. This is the first part of the aphorism. And in the second part he says, one day I found God standing before me. The third sentence he says, that now to whom to believe? To their fine logic or to my own eyes? So this is what defines who a rishi is. He sees, drishti. So the rishi has to be antardrishti sampanna. That's why he is known as satya drashta, mantra drashta, sakshatkrita dharma, that he directly perceives the truth. Because of this antardrishti. There's a second thing which he has to have. He has to have the shruti. It's not just seeing the truth, but hearing the voice of the truth. That's why he is also described as Satya Shrota. He is the hearer of the truth. The truth always speaks to every one of us. Every one of us. Because since our antaratma, antaryami is within, he will be speaking to every one of us. But it is the rishi who listens and then who follows the words of the antaratman letter by letter. And most of the times we, living in our outer consciousness, in our external ego-driven, desire-driven self, we don't hear, or we hear, but we don't heed to it. We don't pay any attention to it. But the rishi has that special quality, that special shruti. He hears the truth, the voice of the truth, that subtlemost voice of the truth he hears, and then he follows that. That's why he is Satya Shrota. He is Mantra Drashta, he is Satya Drashta, he is Satya Shrota. And there is a third thing that a rishi has to have. He has to have a viveka. That one may be hearing, one may be seeing, but most of the times if there is true viveka is not manifest, then one may distort the seeing and hearing. That's what happens with many people. So you don't present the truth as it is. That's why the Rishi says, Yadrugeva dadrushe tadruguchyate. Whatever I have seen without any distortion, because mind has no role to play in manifesting the mantra. It doesn't interfere. So Rishi's mind doesn't interfere in his seeing and hearing. He has to take care that his viveka has to take care of that. That's why we say like drishti, shruti, viveka sampanna rishi. He is kavi, he is kranta drashta. These are the words for a rishi you will find. That he is kranta drashta, he is satya drashta, he is sakshatkrita dharma, he is mantra drashta, satya shrota, he is kavi, kranta darshi. There are so many words for a rishi. And of course, in that, let me mention that after this, our next series is going to be the Kavi tradition of Bharat. The Kavi tradition of Bharat, and addressing to many poets, not just of Sanskrit poets, but many other languages also will be addressing to that. So that's a work which is going on. So this Rishi, Kavi, Satya Drashta has to have these three qualities, drishti, shruti and viveka. Most of the times question comes that only mantra drashtas are the rishis. So sometimes people may go through the books and there are many personalities who are presented here. Someone may raise a question that how can this personality be a rishi? Because again we have a specific idea about the rishis. If you go to the Shastras, you will find the rishis are of various types. Even a common man showing symptoms of some rishitva, some qualities of a rishi, is addressed as Jana Rishi, a rishi amongst the common man. There are, like Devarshi, Taparshi, Satyarshi, Kandarshi, Brahmarshi, Rajarshi, and so many types of rishis that you will find. There are Urdhvaretas, Brahmacharis, there are Grihasthashramis. There are various kinds of rishis, of course, in the book I have described that. But the rishi, again, is not confined. And if you look at the root sense of the word rishi, it comes from the root sound rish. Rish means to move, to flow. And this is where you see that the rishi moves and flows with the movement, with the flow, with the rhythm of the universe. He is one with that movement. He is one with that movement, universal movement. He flows with that rhythm harmoniously. A harmonious rhythmic movement is a part of Rishi's consciousness. See, everywhere he sees harmony, ekatva, and samatva. And this is where you find like Rishi Yajnavalkya. I was just mentioning to Swamiji, he comes from, his ashram is placed, as he said, where Rishi Yajnavalkya had his ashram. And I come from, Sri Aurobindo ashram, where the ashram is there. So a historian has proved that it is Rishi Agastya's ashram was there. So Rishi Yajnavalkya, and all of you know, his greatest contribution, the Shukla Yajurveda, and especially the last chapter, Ishopanishad, Ishavasyopanishad. Sri Aurobindo says that if everything else is lost, everything is lost. Just that first mantra of Ishopanishad is there. Everything is preserved. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tektena bhunjitha magrudha kasya svidhanam. That itself encodes all the experiences, all realizations, everything that the rest of the Shastras have to speak about, are elaboration of this realization of Ishavashyamidam sarvam. Just one mantra, and this is what is the power of a rishi, that he could see and then give expression to such a profound statement that even today, after so many thousands of years, it has its relevance, and it will have its relevance for ages together. That's why Rishi Vakyam, we call it as the Pramana Vakyam. Whatever the Rishi has said, that if he has made a mistake also from the, I mean, how do we say mistake? Because we have our own limited understanding of the language, Vyakarana and everything. We say that, this doesn't fall into the Paninian system. So it is a Paniniya. So instead of calling it Apaniniya, we call it as Arsha Prayoga. We call it as Arsha Prayoga because Rishi has said it cannot be the other way. That is the respect the tradition has given to the Rishis. Arsha, anything has got a stamp of Arsha, no more questions. One cannot question a Rishi. Yet, you are free to question a Rishi. There are a lot of research happening, someone questions Panini, someone questions Patanjali, someone questions Shankaracharya. So, everyone is free. The tradition has allowed, but the true question has to come from that state of Rishitva. So then, a Rishi alone, Sri Aurobindo says, a Rishi alone can understand another Rishi. If you want to understand what the Rishis have contributed, raise yourself to that state of Rishi. Manifest all the Rishitva qualities within yourself. Then only you can understand another Rishi, what he has said, what he has presented. Rest, it will be just an intellectual exercise and nothing much of the Rishi will be understood. You will have various interpretations of the Shastras, interpretations of the words, but the Rishi's intent will not be understood. So, only a Rishi can understand the Rishi. But how does one attain to Rishitva? There are various qualities of a Rishi that one has to look at and make effort to manifest. That's why the tradition has given so much importance to the disciplines to be followed. Without following the disciplines, it's not possible to manifest those Rishitvas. Today in our education system, we do not have the facility of following that discipline. We teach our children everything. We teach them computer, we teach all kinds of sophisticated subjects. A young child can create at home a robot, Yantra Manushya. You can create, there are a lot of examples of Yantra Manushya, how ancient people used to create robots. You have a whole description of that in Samarangana Sutradhara. There's a whole section on a yantra where it says like if when the dasas, the servants are not at home, then who will do gardening, sprinkling water, standing at the gate, allowing who has to go, who not to go, giving information, doing some work. So they created a Yantra Manushya. There is a whole description of how the Yantra Manushyas are created. Description is Samarangana Sutradhara. So the education system, we give everything to the Rishi, to our children, but we do not give what exactly is the purpose of education. The purpose of education is lost in the education system. What is the purpose of education? If you ask a Rishi, catch a hold of a Rishi, Yajnavalkya, Vasishtha, they all are available to us. You say, but where are they available? You meditate, you invoke them, they are there. They are not far away from us. Their living presence speaks through us if we can open ourselves to their consciousness. That has been our tradition, like look at how Swami Vivekananda was created by Ramakrishna, and there are so many stories, so many anecdotes. I don't need to elaborate it. That has been our tradition. But catch hold of any Rishi, ask, what is the purpose of education? And today you can have PhD thesis on definition of defining education. Education means this, education means that, this educators, educational philosophy and everything. But what a Rishi has to say? A Rishi says in a simple language, Atmanam Vidhi. That's all defines what education, how education system has to be created. Atmanam Vidhi. Know thyself. If my education cannot create awareness about myself, I know everything but I don't know who am I. I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know how to manage my family. I don't know how to manage myself. I don't know how to manage my business. I don't know how to manage my relationship. But I know everything. I'm an expert in computer science. I'm an expert in this, that. I can earn so much of money, but I don't know how to manage myself. Because I never had this Atmajnanam. And people think that Atmajnanam means something like you have to go and do tapasya to get Atmajnanam. Suddenly something will flash in you, and then you have a moment of, enlightenment, and you see that then you become an Atmajnani. It has its own importance. But that's not the only truth about having Atmajnana. That's why, like even a Rishi, even during ancient time, someone is sent to a butcher saying that, why are you coming to me for learning about Atmajnanam? Go to that butcher, he will teach you. Go to that cart man who is driving the cart. He will teach you what Atmajnana is. Then we connect the whole Rishi tradition, and what kind of things happen with all, upper caste and this and that. Only Brahmins are Rishis, the Rishi tradition. It's absolutely nothing of that sort you find in the tradition. A Brahmana, Uddalaka, he goes to Pravahana. But before that, let me tell you the story of Shvetaketu. Some of you might be knowing this story, but let me repeat it. Shvetaketu, he was the child of Uddalaka, and he was the one in his family who was not interested in any study. So one day, Uddalaka called him and then said to Shvetaketu, look, my child, in our lineage, in our Vansha Parampara, there is no one who is a Brahma Bandhu. So you may think Brahma Bandhu means a friend of a Brahman. Brahma Bandhu is a term which is used someone who is not interested in study or Brahma Vidya, knowing the Brahman, knowing the truth. So for whom Brahma is a bandhan. Okay. Is a bondage. So he said, go and get yourself admitted into any Gurukul. So Shvetaketu goes, admits himself, comes out as one of the best students. When he comes, and Uddalaka, if you look at the tradition, Uddalaka is one of the best teachers, very practical, and what a teacher should manifest within him, what kind of values a teacher should have, has to be learnt from Uddalaka. So Uddalaka is peeping through the window just to understand how my child is walking, how is he talking to people after he is educated. Then he was very disappointed. He said, what? He went to Gurukul, and I have heard that he is one of the best students, everything he did well. But his body language doesn't show that. He's such an arrogant boy. The way he is moving, the way he is talking, the way he is looking, it doesn't show anywhere that he is educated. How many of us, we do it or evaluate our children from this point of view? However great our child may be, our children may be. So he's looking at every detail, and he stops him. Uddalaka stops Shvetaketu. He asks him the question, what did you study? What did you learn? He said, ask me anything under the sun. All the Vedas, Upanishads, every Shastra I have at the tip of my tongue. You can take an exam of mine. Uddalaka asks him 3 questions. Look at Upanishads, a greatest contribution of the Rishis, the Rishi tradition. Every Indian should, come in contact with at least one of the Upanishads, or some of the stories of the Upanishads. They are the most beautiful stories. So Uddalaka asks him, yes, you have studied all these things, but tell me, do you know that knowing which the unseen can be seen, the unheard can be heard, the unthinkable can be thought of? Yena Ashrutam shrutam bhavati, adrushtam drushtam bhavati, amatam matam bhavati. He said, no, I have no answer to this question. Perhaps my teachers didn't teach me. Then he was getting irritated, why my teachers didn't teach me this? So that's how he again surrenders himself to his father. He says, since you have asked the question, you must be having the answer to it. Please teach me. And there's a whole, series of dialogue between Shvetaketu and Uddalaka that look at how the education happened. Practically, he is giving example. One of the examples, he says that go and fetch a banyan fruit from the courtyard. So he said, break it. What do you see inside? He said, I see so many bejas, so many seeds. He said, pick up one seed and then break it. What do you see inside? He said, I see some fiber, but he break it. He said, it is not further breakable. But what is there inside that fiber? I said, I don't think there is anything. Then he says, do you think that out of nothing this huge banyan tree has come? Just one seed is responsible for the manifestation of this huge banyan tree. And know that what you call nothing, that contains the whole tree within itself. That is what Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. This is the great sentence, the Mahavakya which comes. Uddalaka speaks to Shvetaketu. Tattvamasi, that you are. And then there are further examination which happens. Teaching, learning happens. One can look at the whole dialogue as a teaching, learning process, how it happened, through examples. Then, Shvetaketu, he feels that he was trained by his teachers, he was trained by his father. Now he knows the answer to the 3 questions. Now he has become well educated. He should move out and start debating with others. His father stopped him. He said that no, you are not yet ready to debate with others. He didn't listen. He went to King Pravahana, who was a Raja Rishi. And at the court of Pravahana, he told him that, I have come to debate with you. Pravahana told him that debate happens only among the eligible people. How do you think that you are eligible to debate with me? He said, you test me. So he asked him 5 questions, for which he had no answer. He got disappointed, came and told his father, how is it that you have taught me everything, but I don't know an answer to these 5 questions? So Uddalaka said, believe me, my child, even I do not have answer to these questions. And since Pravahana has asked, let's go together and learn of him the answer to these questions. And Shvetaketu says, enough is enough. No more education, no more training. That's where, after that we don't hear anything about Shvetaketu. But Uddalaka continues. Uddalaka goes, and then Pravahan, he meets him, and then he says that you have asked these 5 questions to me, my child, but I have no answer to it. And since you have asked, you have the answer to it, and then I want to learn it from you. He said, okay, but you have to wait for some time. When the teacher is saying that you have to wait for some time, the disciple doesn't ask how long. That's how initiation doesn't take place. You have no right to ask question. The teacher will come to you when he finds you ready. That is the aspiration for the truth. One has to wait for the Guru to manifest or the Guru to come and teach. So after 1 year, one day Pravahan comes and then tells him that Uddalak, now it's time that I have to transfer this knowledge. Transfer this knowledge. For the first time in the history of knowledge, the knowledge which was always with the Kshatriyas, it is for the first time getting transferred to a Brahmin. There are certain knowledge which is specific to the Kshatriya spirit, the Kshatriya Shakti. But the Brahma Shakti even doesn't have the access to it. So he says, Uddalaka, it is for the first time in the history that I am transferring this knowledge to a Brahmana. But since you are a Brahmana and I am a Kshatriya, I cannot be your Guru. but I can transfer this knowledge as your friend, mitra bhavena. So he embraces him and then transfers this knowledge. And amazing stories you find, the stories of the rishis, their lineage, their children, how they taught, how Ashtavakra was born. Just look at this beautiful story. And we were talking to Senuji is here and Rekhaji is here from Hindu parenting. So we're talking like, look at how the Vedic culture, the Vedic rishis, what vision they had. The Rig Veda says, Janaya Daivam Janam. That create a conscious divine population, not unwanted population. Not unwanted population. And look at the whole story of Ashtavakra. It was not intended, but it just happened. That the anger of someone has such impact that a child borns with all deformities. A child borns with certain deformity. What we need to learn from the rishis, the whole tradition, and whatever truth they have revealed, they have much relevance to our life for all the times. We must learn this tradition, the lessons given by the rishis, their upalabdhis, their realizations, and then implement those in our day-to-day life. And especially when we are in a time when even the government of India is thinking to revamp the whole education system, bringing new education policy, the Rishi tradition has to be understood properly, and the principles of education which are there in the Vedas, Upanishads, Gita and various other shastras, they have to come to the forefront. They have to be the guiding principles in creating new policies, new systems bringing in the education. So this Rishi tradition of Bharat, the book which I have presented, 108 rishis we have addressed to them. The purpose is not to give a full biography of the rishis, but a little bit of biography. But most importantly, what was the aspiration of the rishi, what discipline he followed, and what was his little contribution which still inspires us. We keep speaking about ekam sad vipra bahudha vadanti. What a great statement. And that's again one of the finest realizations of the Vedic rishis, the Rishi tradition. Ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. There is only one reality which manifests in various forms. This multiplicity, this world is the manifestation of that single reality. And you have to remember, that's why in the traditional sense, that when you recite a mantra, the rishi has to be remembered. The chandas has to be known. The devata invoked also has to be remembered in the beginning. So Rishi Dirghatama, look at the whole history of Rishi Dirghatama. Dirghatama means like one who is in tamas for a long time, in darkness for a long time. And whatever information is available about Dirghatama, that he was in his mother's womb for a long time, unusual time. He lived in that darkness, and in that darkness he was searching for the light. He was a born rishi. He could find that light while being in the womb. We have Mahamrityunjay mantra. Tell me how many of you know who is the rishi of Mahamrityunjay mantra? Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam. Every one of us, everyone sitting here must be repeating Triambakam Yajamahe. But the Rishi Smaran, it was Rishi Vasishtha. Who is the Rishi of Gayatri Mantra? Vishwamitra. Okay, we should remember. And these great mantras that we find in the tradition, and all this, and when we are reading or when we are chanting, invoking with the mantra Sato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityur ma amritam gamaya, this defines how life has to be. What should be the purpose of education and life? If the purpose is not to move from darkness to light, from what is unreal to real, and from what is um, mortal to immortal, mrityurma amritam gamaya, then what else is the purpose of life? When you hear Bhadram Karanevhi Shrunuyama Deva, there's a whole scheme for life beautiful. How do you make your life beautiful? The schemes they have given to us. And unless and until we come in contact with these writings and understand the true intent of these mantras, carrying forward the Rishi tradition again becomes a question mark. That's where every Indian, I'm not speaking to a certain group, every Indian, every human being, because the Veda addresses to the entire humanity, not one section of humanity, one nation. Every humanity must, at least in India, every Indian should come in contact with this whole rich Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, the Rishi Parampara, and pay respect. Paying respect means living the truth, living how the Rishis lived on this land. So with these words, I again pay my respect to you all for coming and listening to me. Much of this, again, you can discover in the book. If there are any questions, I will address to that, and then we will take off Staneswarji's talk. And let me tell you that when I heard that he is coming, so we didn't want to miss him. I am a great fan of him, and there is a lot to be learned from him. There is a lot you need to learn from him. The simplicity with which he speaks and presents the whole profound truth of the tantric tradition, the tantric knowledge system, about which there is much confusion in the world with regard to Tantra. Tantra has never been presented in its pristine form to the humanity. And today we will hear from him something about the pristine form of what is this tantric knowledge system. Again, my regard to you, sir. So, thank you. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad, Sampaji. As always, it is enlightening listening to you. Now, the story that Sampaji spoke about Rishi Uddalaka receiving Kshatra Tejas, let me assure you that is not there in the book. A lot of other stories are. There is a story of Uddalaka and Shvetaketu and many other stories. Many of Sampaji's students are here and they will know this, they will vouch for this as well, that every time he speaks, he always has something new to offer, some new insight or some new story. So I request everybody to go out and buy the book. Before we have the next speaker, if there are questions in the audience, we can take them. Please restrict your questions to the topic, which is the Rishi tradition of Bharat. You may also pick Sampaji's brains on the topic of Sanskrit. We have many scholars here as well. So please feel free to ask him any questions that you would like to ask. And after that, there will be a small break. And after the break, we will have the second speaker of the day. Any questions, anybody?
Namaste. I'll just a very small, tiny question. The topic was Rishi tradition, and the book is also about Rishi tradition. I would like to know what tradition means to you. And I would also address the same question to Staneshwar Timal Sinhaji after his talk.
So, yeah, let's, like for convenience, maybe in English we are using the word tradition, but the Sanskrit form of it is parampara. Parampara means parampara. There is satatya, continuity, unbroken continuity of the vision, of the practice, of all that they have created. That is what I meant by the parampara, the tradition. But satatya is most important thing, continuity, unbroken continuity.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful talk. So my question is related to Sanskrit. Since I got liberty from the ma'am, I can ask a Sanskrit question. So, Rishi, Rishi tradition, 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 Rishi how the Sanskrit impact a child. I studied Sanskrit also in my subject, but I never thought of like the impact of Sanskrit on human brain. Now I am kind of enforcing my child to learn the chanting, and I see the power of it. So, what's your thought around Sanskrit and impact of Sanskrit on children and their growth?
Yeah, there is a lot which I can speak about it, and there's much work also like I have done in this field. So, for example, I have been visiting to many gurukulas. I'm just giving you one example, though I have not documented it as a research paper, but my whole purpose of visiting many gurukul to find out, I'm taking just one aspect to find out, because there are a lot of children nowadays in the normal school, they suffer from speech related disorders and disabilities, all kinds of, and speech pathologists have a huge demand today. So most of the convent going schools and Indian families where English is being taught right from the beginning, so their children suffer from speech related, I'm not saying that everyone's, but maximum, they suffer from speech related disabilities and disorders. I have never found in a single Gurukul child who has any kind of speech related disorder or disability, because of their pronunciation is clear. Yet, like you don't find what is defined as speech related disorder and disability in the Gurukul children who have been chanting and learning and speaking Sanskritam right from the childhood. And what impact it has on the human consciousness, human brain, there is much research which are available on the internet, you can find out. But my own experience is working, and I have worked with hundreds of children suffering from speech related disorders, and then I have brought them back from the speech pathologist, and with the help of Sanskrit Varnamala, I have rectified their problems. If the problem is not organic, where you need surgery or something like that, you have a cleft palate. If it is an inorganic problem, disorder, it can be rectified if the child is below 12 years within 3 months by various combinations of the Sanskrit Varnamala, and there are various shlokas. I'll give you one example. Like I met a child, girl child, in Rajasthan. So she was unable to speak the Ka group of sounds. So if you ask her to say Coca-Cola, she will say Tototola. If you ask her to say Kurkure, so she will say Turture. So all her Ka group sounds will become Ta. But with a little observation, what I found out, if I give her the first sound as the Ta group, then Ka group, if I ask her to say Utkala, she is able to say that. So I created a lot of word lists for her, where the sound begins with ta group, any word with ta group, and then the ka group sounds for her practice, and to make her. And one rule you must remember, that however great a stammerer may be, one doesn't stammer while singing. Okay. So Sanskrit being a highly rhythmic language, if anyone speaks, it will never develop stammering, because it's almost you are singing, you are not speaking. So all those who are speaking Sanskritam are singing. The words are like that. You can sing any word here. Any word you pick up, it's so highly rhythmic, you can set it into ragas and talas. Forget about the sentences and shlokas. Any word you can set it. It's so highly rhythmic. So that's how, like it, I told her to make her aware of the vocal presence here on the throat. So I gave her a verse like aga, ga, nga, nga, ka, ka, ha, ga, ha, ka, ga, ga, ka, ka, which contains all the, kantya varnas, guttural sounds. So she started singing it, and that strengthened, that made her aware of that part. And then after 3-4 months, she's fine. She's speaking. The problem has gone. So hundreds of children I have rectified their problems by introducing them various shlokas, particular combinations, and the Varnamala. And every child. So if you have a child at home, maybe your grandchildren or your own child, you must ask them to learn the Maheshwara Sutra. Ayun rulru keyong ayu chayavar lanya mangananam jhabain ghadadas jabagadas Kapha Chatata Chatatav Kapai Shashashar Hal. These 14 sutras every child should learn. Then the India will be a different India. I'm telling you.
Mishraji, this you said that Rishi Parampara is continuing even today. Can you name us any latest rishis?
There may be so
where
many
you
rishis
see-
sitting here.
No, that's correct. That's true. That's true. Can you mention something who has written something about latest day?
There are plenty.
This
Like
Drishtis.
if you look at
Aurobindo, we can say Vivekananda, you can say, and like that, the present to whom you say it's Rishi. You
I
make the
respect
Rishi.
so many people as rishis.
Okay. No,
See,
that's
for
a general.
example, like Arya Muni sitting here, I respect him as a rishi. I bow
Okay.
down before him. The
Yes.
way, like whatever his contribution is there, I look at him as a rishi.
Any contribution in
Him-
writing?
no,
Any
see,
contribution
for
in
example,
writing?
like Staneswarji,
Yeah.
I respect him as a rishi.
Notable writings, something like that.
I can read his writings,
Okay.
listen to his talks. She's asking a question.
Namaste, sir. So I would like to know, how do we bring rishis to our life every day? Like, can you give one or two things? Like you said, we remember, but remembering is like, you go in front of, make a temple, do that. I think that's what we end up doing mostly. But how do we bring the...
Yeah, that's a question which comes up because I teach a course, the Rishi leadership. And I teach to the children who have no contact with what India is. For them, India is post-independence. They have not heard the word Veda or anything. So take simple examples from the Gita, little sentences from the Gita, that every action of yours must be controlled action. Controlled. You must have a sense control over your mind. That is the work of a rishi. That's how you develop, like how do you have control over your senses? How do you develop your power of concentration? How do you develop your power of observation? All that the education, must do for a child. So that's how we can bring every aspect of the Shastra translated into life. When it says that, you have to develop this Sthita Prajnata. Sthita Prajnata is not something very big that one has to think. And there are many things you can take. Shashikant Joshi ji is sitting here. He has a book called Attitude Shift. Look at all the Rishi Vachanas he has taken and then translated those, interpreted those into, modules, small modules, which anyone can put it into practice. So by his book, Attitude Shift. So little things. That's why Gita says that Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Somewhere we have to take a baby step and then put it into practice. Without practice, it won't happen. Control over senses, control over mind. How many schools sense development is done? No school, no education system gives importance to how you send your child to the school and then they will send you back that we are working on his senses. Then you will start doubting the school teacher. What? They are working on the senses of my child. But this is the work that we should start at home even. Yeah.
Namaste. Sir, your enlightening lecture is to be appreciable. And my question is, you refer to Pravahana, who was called the Rajarshi of the Kshatriya tradition. Similarly, there would have been a Vaishya tradition and Shudra tradition of Rishitva also.
Plenty.
So, was there any one Rishi who had the knowledge of all these Varna tradition of Rishitva?
I think Yajnavalkya was one of the prominent rishis having the knowledge of all traditions.
All the traditions.
Yes. That's where, Yajnavalkya was given that status of the highest among the Brahma knowers. And that whole story when Janak had announced this, that look, there are 1,000 cows outside the court, and every cow has a bag hanging on the thorn, on the shringa, and then every bag contains 1,000 gold coin. So much of wealth. Whoever can prove himself or herself to be the best among the Brahmanas, all this wealth belongs to him. No one dared. There was pin drop silence. So Yajnavalkya got up and then told his disciple that carry all these cows to our ashram. Janal said, how dare? Are you the best? He said, best or worst, I don't know. I need money to manage my ashram. He was very humorous. You can test me, but I am carrying this. Huh? Yeah, Gokama Vayam. So,
After him, is the whole tradition of Rishitva is carried on by a single individual?
there may be plenty. We need to evaluate and then understand. Like one Rishi you catch a hold of and then dig deep into the realizations, and the answer will be there.
So at present, can we find such a people?
Okay, let's all together search for the Rishis. Yes. Okay. This is the last question. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Soumya Garg, old student of Dr. Talmasina. The question I have for you is, as you're talking about honoring rishis and remembering rishis, have you studied or have any insight into the experiment of Maharaja Agrasen with what he did with his
No.
kingdom in dividing it?
No.
Okay.
Don't have. Okay, all right.